It was an age of violence. The world was held captive by an army of barbarians. Only one man, together with his friends, dared oppose them.
I'm here to kill you.
Get out! In the wasteland, only the strong survived. Warriors of the Wasteland, starring Fred Williamson, rated R.
Now playing at a flagship theater near you.
And now playing on the second segment of the Drive-In Asylum double feature.
Yes.
We're back with Peter Podgursky and Bryan Keithley of NPR Mageddon. And of course, there's me and Sam Panico too. So let's talk about Robot Jox. I know you guys have a lot to say.
Well, Robot Jox, I think, God, I mean, Stuart Gordon has, like, this is sort of the Shaggy Dog out of his filmography in a lot of ways. Like, and it's still such a good flick. Like, it's like this, and maybe like didn't he directed like that Ray Bradbury Magical Ice Cream Suit, the film version of that. So like those, so this and that are kind of like his not incredibly dark films. And I don't know, I just like Stuart Gordon sort of fits like this time period of directors. There's like Sam Raimi, Stuart Gordon, and Don Coscarelli are sort of all kind of playing in a similar sandbox. And they're not exactly, they're not mimics of each other, but boy, are they really compatible. They try to make these kind of genre films that are really, really fun and not so stupid that they're like become a trauma film or something. Like they're films that they still take themselves seriously and they're kind of fun. And that's sort of a sweet spot that like if you went any further, you'd fall into like a Frank Heckenlocker film or something, which is just still good, right? But like it's like you've kind of you tipped over a little too far, and you can tell that like I think the best thing about Robot Jox for me is like the script is so well constructed. What everybody is doing more or less makes sense and is in conflict with what somebody else wants. So you know, like Athena wants to be a robot jock because she was created to be a robot jock. And that's the only thing she cares about for almost the entire film. And she doesn't even really care about Achilles. She like admires Achilles because he's doing the thing that she wants to do, you know, and that's how that works. And then there's a great like spy plot that's underneath the film. It's a totally B plot with B characters, you know, that like it and because usually what happens in a movie, what would be the B plot would be a love story, right? You'd have like the Athena Achilles story, which isn't really
there's not much of that.
There's not much of a love story there. They got a little bit of moonlighting kind of scenes going on, but like it's not the B story. The B story is the subterfuge and the spy stuff between Tex and Miyamoto. And you know, you get these like two character actors just chewing up scenery, and it's just I just really like Tex. I don't know anything about that actor. Do you know anything about the guy that played Tex? I don't think I've seen him in anything after that. Or
he's big though. He's bigger than life. Like I love him, and like I think for me, the fun part about Robot Jox is like how many different layers. Like what layer do you want to kind of view this lens through? Right, like. There's class stuff, there's gender politics, there's Cold War, you know, parallels, or you could just, you know, admire it for its Power Rangers, you know, big robot action, you know, or do you want to look at the anime, you know, inspiration that is clear in some of this? So there's a lot to unpack, and you know, sometimes it's like a children's movie, but sometimes it's very adult, and I think. You know, it has some of the high science fiction, like a Total Recall, like a RoboCop. Like there's some serious examinations of subjects going on in this movie. If you want to look at them, you know, like, and if you don't care to, you could sort of enjoy it on a different level. So I think it has a little bit for everybody. You know,
I have some roles for Tex. Michael Aldridge. Yeah. Bill, he was in Ruby. He was the sheriff's wife's date in Ruby. He's Sheriff Neil Blake in The Incredible Melting Man.
That's the one that blew my mind. The Incredible Melting Man.
Incredible Melting Man. Okay.
And he plays sheriffs, huh?
Yeah, and he
It
is the husband of the best friend in the entity that kicks her out
Oh,
when she runs to the
cool.
house in the first night. Yeah, he's also the lawyer, Tony's lawyer in Scarface. He's in Ghost Town, and he's in The Taking of Beverly Hills, also playing a cop. In
This
that
this
film.
must be his meatiest role, though, right?
Yeah.
Robot Jox is probably his career peak.
And he's in V too. He's Bill Graham in V.
Oh.
Did we say his name yet?
Michael Aldridge is his name.
Aldridge, yes.
Yeah. So yeah, he died in 97, unfortunately. But yeah, he had a pretty he was only 56 when he died, sadly. He was also in 2 episodes of the 80s version of the Twilight Zone. Tons of TV, Punky Brewster, Dukes of Hazzard. He kind of hit all the shows that, in the 80s.
He's like a working character actor.
Yeah.
Mhm.
But yeah, the fact that he was in The Incredible Melting Man, I knew Bill would know that once he put that together.
I
He's
did
in
not make the connection that
Yeah.
was him, but you can probably guess that he was my favorite actor in the whole film.
He was great. He was
Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah. There's some really fun people in there. Paul Kozlow, who's in this, is Alexander, is really good too. I really like him a lot.
He has the worst haircut in the film.
Yeah. He's in Nom's Angels, which is a pretty fun movie. He's in the Omega Man, Cleopatra Jones, Mr. Majestic with Bronson. He's one of the bad guys in that. He's in a lot of like fun, never like a guy. He's in like the Annihilators, like those Extro too. He's in those level of movies, but he's always like better than the movies he's in, I think, which is my favorite kind of character actors.
And he knew what kind of movie he was in here. Like I think
Yeah.
his energy level, he you just can't take your eyes off of him when he's, like if he's walking into the bar or something, it's like, uh-oh, here comes trouble. And he's like, Achilles, like I love it.
And there's
You have to double drink when he says Achilles. He's the one to get you drunk.
There's like and the practical effects, like they are the stop motion effects and stuff. Like I think people still really like this. Like if you're into practical effects, I think this is a film that comes up on topic a lot. I saw this film the last time I saw it playing at the New Beverly in Los Angeles, and there was a guy who had brought his little kids to see it, or maybe they were his grandkids, but they're very young kids, and the kids were totally into it, which I was sort of curious. Like, what are these kids? These kids were like, 8, around that age, and it turns out that the guy had worked on the film, and he had like a piece of a robot. He had like a toe, and and he brought it to the theater, and he brought he didn't do he basically just like, hey, look, I brought a toe to the robot. He's like, he had this thing, and it was playing. And he knew he wanted to like show his kids like, oh yeah, I worked on this thing, and he was like super jazzed to have kept like a toe of a robot.
Yeah.
Robot Jox.
That's
I
cool.
would have loved to have seen this in a theater because I've unfortunately only seen it on small screen, and it'd be a fun movie to see large and loud.
Yeah, I don't know if Tex could have fit into into one of the suits so easily. Oh, he kind of has his own suit though.
Yeah. Yeah, this movie has a very modern, especially because we were talking while we were watching it. All the Tubies are all just like kind of brothers and sister, so their nudity does not bother them. They're just used to it. It's not a big deal. Except she says to him at the one point, she's like, "Your body's nothing special." She thought he would be like, what did she think he would have, like a third dick or something? Do you know what I mean? He's like, how did you get so great? How are you the best ROBOT JOX?
Yeah, she was not impressed
Yeah.
by what Achilles.
Actually, he would be super impressed because then he would have a second dick and a third one. So I guess that was a little far. I pushed it a little too hard.
Your dick's not a chainsaw.
Yeah, exactly. That's the best part. He's like, oh my god, this spider robot has a chainsaw where his penis should be. That's amazing.
It looked like a rooster gobbler.
Yeah.
A comb.
That last fight is really good though. It goes from like there's the first fight and then that moment where it gets broken up, and then the second robot fight, and then the on foot human fight. Like it's really there. You get all the action you want out of this one.
Yeah, you go from outer space and the space age to the Stone Age, right?
Yeah.
I mean, just like dudes with sticks and rocks.
Yeah.
That's my favorite part. Bill started laughing. He's like, he's hitting him with a rock.
It just kept going and going.
Yeah.
Like, now we're gonna fight with big rocks.
Yeah.
And they were just exhausted. They were like, oh, we're tired. We're trying to kill each other. We're tired.
No, it's a great film. And yeah, shout out to like Carolyn Purdy Gordon, who's like she played the pregnant sister of Achilles, and that's Stuart Gordon's wife. And you'll see her pop up in all the Stuart Gordon films. And the person who plays her husband in this, I think, is in the beginning of Reanimator. He's one of the scientists that gets, that has bad things happen to him.
And you worked with her, right?
Was that? Yeah, I worked with Carolyn. I have a short film that was in ABCs of Death 2.5 called, and this was a contest that Alamo Drafthouse did, where we were all supposed to make a short film based on a letter of the alphabet. But for the competition, the letter was just the letter M. And so mine was like, M is for Mormon missionaries. And I needed an older woman who was okay with like really horrific violence. And I was like, and it's kind of hard to cast that because like most, women actresses of that age just aren't interested in being in like something too brutal. But I thought, I bet Stuart Gordon's wife would be okay with it. So I gave Stuart a call over because he used to have this production company called Little Red Hen Productions, and that you could just look up the number, Little Red Hen Productions, and if you called it, he'd answer the phone. So I just called him up and asked him. I said I had this script, and like he had previously mentored my thesis film, which was called Cheerbleeders. And he gave me really, really good advice because I went and visited him in his office. And I talked about Robot. I was like, I think, you're going to always be known for Reanimator, but I just really want to give you props for Robot Jox. And his piece, his piece of advice was like, when you're on set and you have a chance to sit down, you should probably sit down, because you're going to get really tired if you don't sit down every once in a while, and then drink lots of water. And that was his advice. It was very, very good advice.
Very practical.
Because when you're directing something and like everyone else is working, you kind of feel like, if I sit down, that's almost bad, right? Like, and so you just want to stay on your feet. But but you'll just end up staying on your feet for 12 hours. Not everybody else is working those entire 12 hours.
Yeah.
Because people will go they'll talk to the crafts table. Everyone else has breaks. If you're always going to be working, your only break will be lunch, maybe. So his advice was like, he was basically telling me this, and he's like, yeah, sit down. If you have a chance, everyone else, and you can sit down, you should sit down. I thought that was really good advice. But Carolyn was agreed to be in my short film, and it was kind of cool to have that lineage. And she's part of that old Chicago organic theater company, that David Mamet crew. Like Stuart Gordon knew all those. Like he knows David Mamet, William H. Macy. Like he knows them from theater days, because Stuart Gordon was originally a theater director before he did film. And there's a really great David Mamet adaptation that's directed by Stuart Gordon, starring Bill Macy, called Edmund, which was a play. And it's a really grimy, dark kind of it's like late period Stuart Gordon. Stuart Gordon kind of has like 3 different periods. And like the last part is like where he does like Edmund and Stuck and those kinds of films. And then his earlier period is like Robot Jox and Reanimator. And there's like kind of like this kind of transitional period where he did he worked for like the Asylum. The very first Asylum film was a Stuart Gordon film called King of the Ants. And it was like produced by like George Wendt, who was Norm from Cheers. And so that's like, bizarre. And that's, he was another one of those organic theater company actors out of Chicago. So it's like this little Chicago mafia from David Mamet, Bill Macy, and Stuart Gordon, which it's kind of like, why is he part of that? It's like the third weird guy.
And Stuart Gordon's in this as the bartender very briefly.
Yeah, he has 2 scenes. He's like, you are one drunk dude. It's like his.
I'm not allowed to serve you when you're drunk.
Yeah.
My second favorite character in the movie
was the bartender. And the filmmaking in this, it's a low budget film, but they do so many smart things. Like you'll often see it in the, like they start out a scene, it'll be a kind of close on something, on a TV, and then it'll just like dolly out, and like the bartender scene that Stuart Gordon is in, that scene starts on like a picture on the bar wall, and then just pulls out and just keeps going out past a bunch of disco dancers, past a bunch of Russian dudes taking shots, you just get the whole like feel of the entire environment. It's almost like the shot from RoboCop, like where they get out of the elevator and then like the camera goes around to see like the new city and stuff. It's like these long moving masters, which is not the kind of thing you normally don't see. Long moving masters in low budget films. Usually just see, someone just like covers it. There's a pan or, something. So there's just so many, like the film, I think, punches above its weight from a cinematic standpoint.
Yeah. And I love how economical some of the lore and when you're always setting up a future world like this, right? You have to set up the rules, you have to kind of lay the scene. And I think they do that very smartly in the script. Like at a certain point, Achilles is arguing about his contract, and he says, so what? I don't know how to read. Like, I'm not stupid. And it's like, wow, you don't know how to read? Like, so jocks, like, are sequestered in this society, and they're sort of subject to different rules and stuff. So it's like weird little asides like that actually really help build the world and like make you ask questions about how this society is organized.
Yeah. And I love how pronatal the whole world is, like they just want people to have children. And we were talking, like, why did they make a girl Tubi? Right? Like, and it seems to be like it's for the press. It's for it's for propaganda purposes to it's so they can have they can have like some buzz or whatever, and you'll create this female warrior to
bigger ratings.
Yeah, it's like it's just to create a story. Like, like I have a friend that works for the Olympics, and he does like the little, from a small town, this girl would ski downhill backward, they just like you're just to buy into this narrative that gets you really invested in more than just the competition itself. These people become characters, right? And you kind of have these jocks in this world, which you don't see a whole lot from the outside, but you see a little bit. Like you see, like there's graffiti on the poster when Achilles decides, he doesn't want to beat anymore. You don't see a whole lot of backlash. You don't see like everyone like, oh, boo. It's just like, but that one like little, it's a very economical. You just see the poster and a bunch of graffiti calling him a coward and a loser and stuff.
Coward spelled wrong, so
CWERD. Coward.
Yeah, and so like you're just like, the plebs have lost like their champion. Like he was like the coolest guy, and then,
it's in front of his sister's house too. Like she has to see that every day.
Yeah, it's brutal, right? Yeah,
yeah. And I like when he comes back. Everybody's like, yeah, we know we gave this girl a chance, but you're back. Fine. She's not going to do this anymore. And like you said, Bryan, true to her character, she's smart. She's like, I'm going to knock him out with drugs and take this fight for myself.
Yeah. Yeah. Like the scene where she, zaps him, sedates him, and then they sort of have a tete-a-tete. That was a lot of fun. And, it's like, she's a very driven woman, and her motivations make sense in that moment. Even though everyone else is just completely passing her by, because it's like, oh yeah, Achilles is back. So whatever, we promised you the fight, but no, it doesn't matter anymore. And she's like, no, it does matter.
Yeah, well, she's basically just government property that they can just kind of do whatever they want. Like, I don't think the Tubies have a contract like the jocks do. The Tubies are just another piece of government property. And so like, and because like these Tubies have been just so programmed to like, this is the most important thing to do. Like whatever you do, you got to like become the best and fight in robots, or life is meaningless. And so when you do that to somebody, like, because normally it was like, what kind of weird plan is it to like steal the robot and then like climb out of the pit? Like you would do that. But like only a person had been brainwashed their entire life to say the singular focus of your life is this. We're giving it to you. Now we're taking it back. Like they would just go nuts.
Mm-hmm.
I would argue, to Dan's question, why do the poor people get the best seat? I would argue they had the worst seat.
Yeah, if you can die.
So the 300 of them can get crushed.
Well, we're also talking like everybody's wearing a mask in this. I assume from the pollution from the robots, right?
Yeah.
Like, and they're all wearing the really good N95 masks. So
So
They were
I-
all
the
sort of
future.
like in this place where they were in danger. So what they were really doing there is they were adding an extra level of tension for the people who knew better than to sit in
Yeah.
those seats.
But it's
It
also
ups
like
the stakes, it's like
it's
NASCAR.
also in the same way that like people worship the gladiators in Rome, and it was like the bread and circuses for the people. Like they had to see this event, and they had to be this close, and it was almost like maybe a badge of honor to like I was this close to Achilles in this battle.
Yeah, if these things are like Super Bowls or something, you
Yeah.
know.
It's American Gladiators by way of the Super Bowl. There's a lot of like we talked about while we were watching it. I watched the American Gladiators doc, and there's a lot of the feel, especially with the costumes and the pro wrestleification of this sport, where it's like, but this is the only sport. There's no death race. There's no roller games or whatever. This is it. Like it's
No roller
giant robots.
disco.
Yeah. And the betting too, the scene with the betting, which reminds me of Running Man. I think there's certain parallels you can make with Running Man as well.
Yeah, because you also have like everybody watching the fight. It was a very Running Man
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah.
And it's great, like where you see the react, like it's a great moment where everybody finds out that Tex is the guy that betrayed them all. And so then it's just like, and you get everybody in the room's reaction of them realizing it with like Dolly into the old lady, Dolly into the guy with the white hair who's in charge for some reason. Like you just keep like, you son of a bitch.
There's the old lady from Dolls. She's upset.
Don't upset the old light lady from Dolls.
Yeah.
Yeah, she was in Don't Look Now.
Yeah.
She was one of the psychic women, the blind one that kept vaguely telling Donald Sutherland that he was in danger when apparently she knew exactly what was supposed to happen to him. She never just came out and said it. She's like, oh, well, it might be that. And then when it was too late, she goes, fetch him back. She reminded me of Beatrice Straight in Poltergeist. She, roll it back. I was absolutely
Miyamoto. What else was Miyamoto in?
Karate Kid.
Part 2.
Karate Kid. Yeah. That's right. You're saying
Sato. Yeah. That's actually one of his first movies. Like he started really late in acting. So that was like one of his first roles. I remember like he has a great turn in Karate Kid too, because you hate him at first and you're like, oh, he and Miyagi are always friends. Like they made friends at the end. It's very emotional. I get too emotional about Karate Kid. I make cry during Karate Kid too.
They kind of made friends like they did in this movie. So
yeah. My brother might have had that punching thing that Daniel had that you swing back and forth.
And I love Miyamoto's, speech before he's killed, right? Of like, even an old man has a child in him, like it was almost like, Luke Skywalker saying like, I know that there's good in you, Darth Vader, like father, but like he doesn't turn.
Nope. Oh, I got to tell you though, that when that happened live in the theater as a kid, when Luke's trying to talk to Darth Vader in Empire, I don't think I've ever been more emotional in my life outside of maybe my wedding. I was like, this is the most amazing thing that's ever happened. Like nothing was ever the same again, I think, after that.
I really think like the production design like does a lot to tell like little character traits and stuff. Like, because like Miyamoto is like always making like origami little things, right?
Yeah.
It's not like anybody ever talks about it or like, oh yeah, he's really into origami or blah, blah, he's just doing it. And then you see like origami pieces at the end where like he puts like little origami stuff on the new weapons that you can hit the buttons and stuff. And you're like, that he put that there.
That was like an actor thing where he's like, you know what? I did a backstory and this is what he does.
Yeah, it gives him something to do in a scene.
I need some business, right?
Yeah,
They call it
business.
Some hand business, some hand work in the scene.
But like, but those are just really, really clever. It doesn't cost any money to do that, right? Like, and it doesn't have, and it's not explicitly talked about, right? And it just, kind of elevates the picture.
Yeah. The effects obviously were the most expensive thing for this, and of course, in true Empire Full Moon style, they got recycled into a whole bunch of movies afterwards, like Crash and Burn.
Have you ever seen Crash? I've never watched this.
I haven't watched
unofficial sequels.
Yeah, I part of me is like, there's so many, and I know you had ideas for sequels beyond this too. It's like I kind of don't want to see a sequel that doesn't have these characters. and doesn't like push this world forward a little bit. Because like we talked at the end of this, like something's going to happen because they've totally subverted the rules, and these combatants that have eternally fought in this Cold War that lasted who knows how long post whatever happened have like basically shake hands and agree to stop fighting and both live. Like that's never happened before. So what happens next? Like hopefully something.
Yeah, and it's kind of just odd, like because like the cultures aren't very different from each other. Like
Yeah.
Russia, you know, they all hang out at the same bars and like, you know, it's I mean, maybe it's just unique for them, right? But like,
but like we said, the real power rests in that referee.
The referees are the mysterious order.
Yeah,
because they're
the ultimate arbiters. Yeah, I guess they live in their own little kingdom.
Real power in this world lies with the referees of Robot.
I wonder if it's like the fact that the Robot Jocks all hang out together is like kept a secret, like the locker rooms of pro wrestling. Like, don't tell anyone that the Russians and the Americans hang out. You know what I mean? It's like we can't tell that secret. That would ruin the world.
Do you think it was a qualification of being a referee that you had to physically be in a vehicle and fly over the robots? Because apparently they didn't know what a drone was with a camera on it.
You had to look good in the weirdest costume too, like a referee football costume too.
Yeah, the weird costume, and then you have to stand up in the little vehicle and then have like a little harness that goes all the way down to the ground so that you can stand the whole time.
It's got to be dangerous, very dangerous.
It is the most dangerous job, but that gives you. They can shut down the weapons. Oh, except for at the end of the second.
They couldn't shut down the foot.
They couldn't shut down like physics.
Yeah.
I bet it paid well though.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, those guys are paid well.
Yeah.
All right, so that's Robot Jocks, our first feature. Our second feature of the evening is very exciting. I know Sam Panico is just frothing at the mouth to watch this one.
Yeah.
Warriors of the Wasteland.
Yeah, Enzo Castellari, who made Escape the Bronx, of course, in 1990, The Bronx Warriors. As much as well as God, how many other movies we could
He did
talk
Street
all
Law.
Yeah,
he did Inglourious Bastards, the original.
Yep. And
what was his World War II one? It was pretty good. It was like about the Air Force.
Oh,
and
I haven't seen that one. I have seen.
He did a shark exploitation one, right?
He did Last Shark, and he did The Shark Hunter too. Two of them. He did House by the Edge of the Lake, which I really like. The heroin. A lot of crime movies like Heroin Busters and Keoma, which is a really cool.
Keoma's great.
Yeah, it's awesome. It's very Bob Dylan influenced too, which like in the language in it, and it's just like it's very much. I consider it more of a spiritual sequel to Django than the actual Django sequel that came out in the 80s. It's really good.
Yeah, it's
High Crime and Cold Eyes of Fear is really good too. Like, you know, Any Gun Can Play is good. He's a really solid action oriented director versus not as much horror, but like this is his third post-apocalyptic one, and this one's nuts. Like honestly, this movie is filled with car on human death, a lot of beheadings, and George Eastman's gang, the Templars, are there. I mean, there's no easy way to say it. They're a gay gang that hates biblical people that worship God. And they are hunting down these pilgrims that have heard of a message on the radio telling them that they've found the promised land. And literally the guy's name's Moses that leads the group. And the Templars just want to destroy them. They want to destroy life. They hate life. They hate that people are still living in the wasteland, and they want to kill them. Scorpion, the hero, used to be one of them. And it's kind of hinted several times that he and George Eastman had a relationship at one point. Or maybe it's just me reading through the lines. But yeah. And then the best part, obviously, in America, Fred Williamson is the really big deal to American audiences in here. And he's amazing in this. He's basically just shows up and shoots stuff with arrows and is super. He's Fred Williamson. I mean, he's the Hammer in this. He's just himself and great. But this has a lot of a gore and just, I think the best Italian. I think the Italians or the Filipinos are the best at making exploitation based end of the world movies. But the Italians get it right because their movies are very much spaghetti westerns with cars instead of horses. Like they're the same scripts. They use the same buildings, the same sets. The sets are a bit run down from the 60s. That's cool because the world ended. And it's like there's always a hero that's a loner riding into town. But I think they saw that in Mad Max. Like, isn't Mad Max kind of a Western? And
well, Mad Max
Road
is kind of
Warrior.
like Shane. Like it's a
Yeah,
remake
exactly.
of Shane. Yeah.
And I think they had made so many Westerns, they were just like, yeah, we did this. Like, yeah, that makes sense.
What I like about this film, I haven't seen the film, but I've seen a lot of imagery from it because like I run a Twitter, it's at @NPRmageddon, and so like a couple times a week I will Photoshop an NPR reporter into a post-apocalyptic scene, and I've taken a lot of imagery from Warriors of the Wasteland and like put like an NPR reporter in this wasteland. So I'm really familiar with like the costumes and like
Yeah,
I got to see this film at some point. Yeah.
and there's a lot of Castellari's family in it. Shadow, who's one of the bad guys, is his brother in real life. That's Ennio Girolami. And Mako is their cousin, Massimo Vanni, who's in a ton of stuff. He had the same stunt crew, worked in almost all his movies, and they're almost all cousins and brothers, and it's the Italian way of making movies. But the other thing that's amazing about this is one of the girls in this movie, trying to look up what her name is. But she looks exactly, Alma is her name. Her outfit is 100% Princess's outfit from The Walking Dead. There's a lot of like Robert Kirkman took a lot of the look of some of the characters from Walking Dead from this movie, especially because there's a lot, but it gets weird where there's some outfits that are like weird see-through vinyl outfits that make no sense, and go-karts with hedge clippers that cut people into bits. So it gets a little further than that, but it's fun.
Super cool.
And yes, George Eastman's in it. I saw that Mike brought it up. He is definitely in charge. He is. There's one scene where he smokes weed and just gets on a loudspeaker and starts telling all the people, the pilgrims, how he's going to kill them. And it's amazing. There's a really wild speech that he gives, which I'm sure is totally different than the speech he gave in Italian.
And so
Claudio Simonetti does the soundtrack too, which is pretty awesome.
So he's a Goblin alum, right? Was he in Goblin?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So he's a guy that works with like Argento a lot.
Yeah.
He's the one that's touring now as Goblin. It's Claudio Simonetti's Goblin, formerly known as Demonia.
I'll read you a little bit of the speech because I actually wrote it down that one gives. That's George Eastman. He's like, there's no more soul. There's no more hope. There's only one faith and one ecstasy, and that's death. And death I will give to you, ugly last dregs of humanity, because you don't deserve to live. And then he sends his troops out. Pretty rad.
Okay.
That's
pretty
just
badass.
over the top.
I mean, your performance was okay.
I'm not as good as I'm not George Eastman. It's much better when he does it.
Oh, look at this like old ad. That's cool. I like the font on Warriors in the Wasteland because it's not what you'd expect, right?
Yeah.
It totally doesn't look like the movie that they're trying to sell you, but whatever. I guess
like how he's holding a timeline.
Yeah.
a vector.
New Line Cinemas put this out.
Yeah, they did.
New
They
Line
got the rights
Cinema.
in America for it.
Pretty amazing.
Oh,
Here it is.
look at
The
that.
Paramus Drive-In with Alone in the Dark. Ah.
Very not should be better considered slasher. I love Alone in the Dark.
Where are you sourcing these? Like, are they just like you just Google fooing them, or how are you finding these?
Oh, they just follow me home.
Okay.
I get them from online archives. So after searching through the archives for hours.
Yeah, right. I mean, you just have to just clip stuff as soon as you see it. If you think you're ever gonna, you must have like an interesting clipping file.
Oh my God, I have thousands and thousands of files. I have most of them. Well, on my page, Groovy Doom, I do a semi-chronological series from whatever city I choose. And currently, I'm in Bangor, Maine, and I just move through them chronologically and cut out all the interesting stuff and then share it. And then when we do movies on the show, I just look up those movies specifically, and I was able to dig up this amazing pairing at the Paramus Drive-In. And here's some more contemporary.
Man, we've talked about Hot Dog the movie before, and I love that I could see both of them the same day.
I love that Reckless is the most respectable thing on this lineup here.
Oh, I would see all four of these movies. This is like, it's a whole day staying in air conditioning for me. And then I'd stick around for the next week because Yentl's coming February 17th.
Oh my gosh. That's the keeper right there.
It's just the way he makes me feel.
Yep.
Yentl was out at the same time as Tootsie.
Yes.
And there was like, I was like, oh, it's just going to be like Tootsie. No, it wasn't.
No.
It's a little more serious.
Oh.
And in the UK, it was known as the New Barbarians.
I love this artwork for it. The very
that art is cool. Yeah.
This is so much better than the American ad campaign.
And all of those theaters would one day, not far away from this, be the Canon theaters.
Better tagline for this one too. I think.
I mean, just overall, it looks like a much bigger budget film than the first ad campaign is at least a little honest.
Yeah.
But this would get me in the theater for sure.
Yeah. This is why I watched it the first time, was seeing this poster, and I was like, well, this looks great.
Oh man, I'm ready for some bow and arrow action here. So yeah.
There is some coming. Get ready.
So at least I managed to dig up an ad for this movie under its alternate title. I forgot about it, Sam, until you mentioned it.
Yeah.
I was like, oh wow. But it never played the States under this title, apparently.
No, just the UK. And it's interesting because in some countries it was sold as a third of the Bronx films. So was Rats Nights of Terror was also sold as one of the Bronx films because it looks a lot like it. It has a lot of the same costumes and sets. But yeah, this fits into it. This feels a lot bigger than those ones. And the Bronx ones feel, obviously because they're set in New York, they feel very like urban. This feels like you are in the middle of nowhere for a lot of this movie. And it's kind of like, this feels a lot closer to Road Warrior than any of the other movies Castellari made. The Bronx films feel closer to Escape from New York and The Warriors, obviously.
Yeah, the Italians always kind of just mixed Mad Max with Escape from New York and just different. Like those were the ingredients.
What I like about them is like we never got sequels to these films, so they're like, hey, did you like the idea of these? Yeah, or we got more kind of like it, like especially because the Bronx movies have wild gangs like silver painted roller skating mimes.
Well, I guess the other movie would be The Warriors, right? It'd be like The Warriors, Escape from New York, and Mad Max. That's how you make these.
Yeah, and that I think those are. Warriors isn't post-apocalyptic, but it kind of is. I always consider New York at the end of the 70s the end of the world, right? Because it's that weird premillennial tension, and it feels like everything's ending. So I'm wondering in the chat too how many people have seen this before or not seen it. So I always like to see whose first timers are for this movie. You guys are first timers for this, right?
Yeah, we have.
Yes,
I've not seen this.
Bill, you haven't seen it either, right? Other than to do the trip.
I did kind of watch it, but I have never sat down and watched the whole thing straight through. So this will be my first time all the way coast to coast in Warriors of the Wasteland.
Coast to coast, as they say.
I'm sure that's why they called it Warriors of the Wasteland. It was probably to like kind of get warriors in people's minds.
Yeah.
There was also the Young Warriors. There was like a sort of
canon movie, yeah. Which is insane. Maybe crazier than this movie. But pretty awesome. It's funny, Bill, they could have used we just watched Too Beautiful to Die a couple weeks ago that uses the Frankie Goes to Hollywood song of Warriors of the Wasteland, and it would have been nice if it was in this, but it's not.
Well, it hadn't been recorded yet.
Yeah, exactly. That's why.
This movie was from the early 80s, and they didn't record that until 85 or 86.
Yeah. I like the David.
In America, that song's called New Barbarians.
Yeah.
It should have been.
I like that David's like, I've never heard of it. I know that he has multiple copies of it in his house, plus the soundtrack. So cool.
Exactly.
I'm glad there's some first timers. I hope you guys dig it because obviously I probably have oversold how much I like it, but I've watched this way too. This is one that like I haven't watched it in like a couple years because it's too much for me. It's too exciting.
Oh, we can't.
Anything with Fred, I'm totally down with. Like I saw a screening with Enzo Castellari was in attendance, and it was for he showed Inglourious Bastards, and Fred Williamson was there as well. and you can talk to him at the end of the thing, and like he's got a Super Bowl ring on, and his hand is like really big compared to your hand. But like I will tell you, Fred has the softest hands you will have ever felt. They feel like
Very nice.
cloth polyester, just very, very soft. Not what you would expect.
Have you
Very
seen
soft
Black
hands.
Cobra with him? That's really good. It's literally Cobra.
Just Cobra with him
in it, and it's great because it's like he can do it. Like not many actors could step into Cobra and be as good. Pretty good. There's 4 of them too. One splits footage with another World War II movie, and it's just a remix. He didn't even know they made it. He didn't know they made the second or third one. He walked into the office of the producer, said, "I'm not leaving until you pay me for this fucking movie." And
oh yeah, well, he was also a filmmaker too. He would make your movie 6 days a week, and I'd take your crew and make another movie on the 7th day, and just keep doing that.
This is one of the other movies that he just was like loved Italy and stuck around. They're like, well, we can put you in this too. Like he wasn't originally scheduled to be in this, and he was just there, and they're like, well, he's a name, and So
I wonder. I think he probably has more fans from his movies than from his football days anymore.
Yeah.
I never hear about him.
He absolutely has to.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was one of those like early NFL though. Like almost all the early NFL guys had like gimmicks, and he was called the Hammer because he would literally run through the line, and this is pre-rules. Would literally run through the offensive line like that to knock people down.
Have you ever considered watching what was this movie, Boss something? I can't remember the last word.
Oh yeah,
what was that called, Sam? You remember? It was Boss. It started with Boss. I remember Josh Olson, who was the screenwriter of History of Violence. Like they were doing, he was doing Joe Dante's Trailers from Hell.
Yeah,
and so like I talked to him, and he goes, "Oh, I'm going to do a Trailers from Hell for a movie." With a Fred Williamson movie, but like it has sort of a controversial title, and I was like, "Oh, I think I know what one you're talking about." And then that review of Josh Olson got wiped from the internet, just like
I think there's an alt title of Boss Charlie for it. That is
I think it's just Boss, isn't it?
There's one Boss. But I've seen another one that has a name on it too, just so that there's a song too. It's like the 70s.
Yeah,
right?
There was
people
a
get upset
song
about stuff now, and it's like, yeah, there was a time where
there's that one Beatles song, right? Like "Women Are the Something of the World." I can't remember. Do you remember the title, Sam?
No. What is this trying to get me canceled?
I just can't remember the names of these things.
Yeah,
this is an attack. I see this for what it is.
Good with names.
Because I have gotten so many people in our chat canceled by saying things back to me. And they're like, I got kicked off Facebook for 2 weeks from you. And I'm like, I didn't
for things they said on this show in the chat, they've been removed.
Yeah.
So please don't anybody talk about those movies. You're being trolled. Let's go get a cocktail.
Now I know what it feels like. It's rough. Yeah. By the way, spoiler before this drink. This drink it's a Scorpion Bowl, which is like a drink for 4 people. And I made like a single person version. It's really not a single person drink. So get ready.
We do not accept any responsibility for what happens after you drink this.
Yeah, please do not drive or operate heavy machinery.
Holy shit, that's a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
And I was asked if I had a vase that we could put this in so we can drink out of a vase.
This drink's called the Scorpion, and really, Scorpion is the hero of Warriors of the Wasteland, which is our second movie tonight. But also, this is a Scorpion Bowl. I've tried to make a Scorpion Bowl for 1. Generally, Scorpion Bowls are made for 4 people. As you can tell, there's a lot of ingredients. I like quartered the ingredients. So if you have a lot of people around,
make the bowl.
You can make a bowl, and you can fill it with this, and everybody's supposed to use the same straw, which doesn't really seem too hygienic, but...
You should probably go find a real scorpion, too, just for...
Yeah, dip a scorpion in
for bonus.
I don't know why it's called a Scorpion Bowl. Maybe because it stings you in the ass the next day. Anyway, let's go through the players in this post-apocalyptic drink. We got 3 ounces of passion fruit juice. I go with Goya. We got some 3 ounces of pineapple juice, 3 ounces of Great Value orange juice, 2 ounces of lemon juice, and we got half an ounce of these 3 players. We got Malibu, we got Cruzan, which is hurricane proof, Calico Jack, which is spiced rum. Usually I go with 1 high power, 1 darker spice, and then 1 fruitier rum for this. Pessoa to tie in with the passion fruit juice. This is passion fruit liqueur from Brazil. Half an ounce of gin. Quarter ounce of maraschino cherry juice to give it some flavor. Does it need any more flavor? One could argue. And then in here,
like a sangria, we have your frozen pineapple chunks, orange slices, and lemon slices.
And maraschino cherries too.
Oh.
So let's put this together. I feel like
this one definitely needed supervision.
I feel like Andre 3000 at Starbucks drinking this
In a vase.
in the vase. Anywho, let's go. 3 ounces. These are the first two juices. And then we're going to go with the orange and lemon juice. Here's your citrus so you don't get scurvy in the future. We're going to do, let's finish the juices up. Let's do quarter ounce. A generous dollop. Here's all the hard liquors. Here's the passion fruit. And then, for Dad, some gin. Supposedly, from what I've read, the gin is what gives this its special taste. I've seen people make it with vodka, but I've heard people argue that it needs gin. I don't know why. Anyways,
stir it up.
Let's stir up this little scorpion. If I was fancy, and we all know that I'm not, I would drink this with a straw. But I ain't gonna. I'm gonna drink this out of a vase like a post-apocalyptic caveman. Like America 3000 has a caveman in it.
I'm ready.
All right. It's a beautiful color, though.
It is.
All right. Well, Pazuzu, y'all, I'll see you in the wasteland. Whoa, that is really good. I can't wait for this movie to get started. Let's do it.
Who else made their drink in a vase?
Did you drink the whole thing?
That's classy.
It's right here. I put it into the drink later.
Oh, nice.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Well, anyway, Pazuzu, and thanks for hanging out with us on the second segment. So we have someone to talk to about these fantastic films tonight. The second of which is Warriors of the Wasteland. I have to admit, I kind of can't wait to watch this movie from beginning to end because I loved 1990, The Bronx Warriors. Yeah, that was the one we did on the show, right?
We did that. We did Endgame too. Yeah.
Oh, Endgame was the first one we did, though. I remember now. Yeah, it was pretty amazing.
Yeah, and don't forget to check out NPR Armageddon, guys.
Oh yeah, check out NPR Armageddon. Go to www.nprarmageddon.com and give it a listen while you are. It's good for a treadmill. It's good for every episode's about half an hour or so long, so that's a good treadmill time.
Yeah. Nora, this movie is not going to give you Damnation Alley vibes. This movie is way more exciting. We showed, guys, so you know, someone picked Damnation Alley once on the show, and it got the worst reviews of any movie we've shown. So that's like at the bottom of our list of movies. They were just bored by Damnation Alley.
I've never seen Damnation Alley, but I like the author of the books. What's his name? Like the guy who did Chronicles in Amber.
Roger Zelazny.
Yeah, Zelazny. Yeah, he's great.
Yeah.
But
this is way more exciting than that. That's a movie where you're like waiting for the vehicle. This movie doesn't make you wait for nuttiness. It's just really filled with it.
All killer, no filler.
Yeah, I think it's
Italian. This is one piece of ravioli that's just has a lot of meat in it.
Someone explained to me once that they would play these movies like on a screen outside, not even a drive-in, but like at a bar where you could eat and drink around it. So it's why so much nutty stuff happens in these movies, because you didn't want to lose people's attention of them talking and interrupting the film. So like if just stuff kept happening and wild moments kept happening, then that's what made it, you know, the movie more interesting.
I love Hawkwind too.
Yeah.
Any band that Lemmy from Motorhead was in is okay with me.
He got kicked out of that band for drugs, so that should tell you something.
Yeah. They were like, no, man, you're going to be serious.
Yeah. You can't do speed for an entire year, Lemmy.
Who talks to Lemmy that way?
Not me. I have nice things to say to him. I wish he had been in a post-apocalyptic movie. He'd be great in one.
He was in Hardware.
Oh, that's right. Holy shit,
yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Good call. Yeah.
No, the hardware. If hardware would have been on Tubi, that would have been my pick. That would have been, that was, yeah, and but it wasn't on Tubi, so I was like went with the Robot Jocks. But yeah, nope, he's in hardware.
You're
Yeah,
a
a
robot
movie that they had to
person.
pay 2000 AD for because
Yeah.
the story was too close. Yeah,
And he's also, I think he's also in Tromeo and Juliet, which isn't post-apocalyptic, but he is in it. He's
Yeah.
like, yeah.
Adam Anson won post-apocalyptic movie too.
Nomads.
Yeah,
Wasn't it Nomads?
no, there's a Canadian one he's in, not Empire of Ash. I can't remember which one he's in. Yeah, Ice-T's in Tank Girl. That's one of my rules. Like a lot of post-apocalyptic movies have like a rock star in them somewhere. Like Mick Jagger's in what do you call it? The one.
Oh, I know.
Oh, we watched that
what is
together
it?
recently. It was very good.
Free Jack.
Yeah, Free Jack.
Free Jack
Free
with
Jack is super
Emilio Estevez.
I
Yeah.
like, yeah, Free Jack is like half a great movie and half a terrible movie, and then you swap between the two of them.
Mick Jagger has like a weird like Niab helmet from Star Wars, like that weird like gunner helmet kind of thing on for a lot of it. It's pretty great.
I like Free Jack so much. I went and I was so curious. I got the Chuck Dixon comic tie-in, like comic adaptation of Free Jack. And the best scene in Free Jack is when like he comes out and there's a homeless guy. Like he falls into the gross river. He pulls himself out and there's a homeless guy there. And the homeless guy just has this monologue that is insane and makes no sense. And then he also knows who the Emilio Estevez's character is.
Yeah.
And it's just like, what is this? Now, Free Jack is.
I always was like, is that his dad? Like when I won tickets from a radio station just to see Free Jack. That's how old I am. So.
Whoa, cool.
Yeah.
No, the cinematographer of Free Jack did one of the very first X-rated films that wasn't for like pornography. That was I think the only X-rated film that was reviewed on Roger Ebert at the movies. And it's like this little kind of art film thing, but and the guy still like the cinematographer Free Jack, I think still works in these giant like movies, just great stuff. But
awesome. Well, maybe we'll do Free Jack next time.
Yeah, next time you're back on.
I'll come back for Free. I want Free Jack's on Tubi. I love Free Jack.
Hardware and Free Jack double feature.
Hardware would be a great double feature, but you
amazing.
have to get it on Tubi. The Tubi restriction. Have you guys watched any like the other film I almost picked? So if everyone, if it wasn't Robot Jocks, it was going to be Hardware. And if it wasn't Hardware, I was going to try to talk you into Nemesis, even though it's a little bit later, just a tiny. But like I think Nemesis would have. That's Albert Pune's my favorite Albert Pune film is Nemesis.
Oh yeah.
And have you ever seen Nemesis?
That's on my list because I want to do a whole Albert Pune week because it's kind of a blind spot.
Nemesis is like if Luc Besson did a Charlie Band film.
Oh
man.
Yeah,
it's action packed. It's so good. Oliver Grenier is like it would like you kind of want to. He's like plays what Jean-Claude Van Damme would have been, right? Like it fits like Cyborg and Nemesis are just like.
I love Cyborg that everybody's named for a guitar. Someone's named Fender Tremolo is their name.
Yeah, Cyborg's excellent. But like, the two best films I think that from Albert Pune. Like
I like Radioactive
Nemesis
Dreams a lot too, though. That's pretty
good. But Nemesis is the sleeper, and it's because he didn't have a big star in it. Oliver Grenier is no Van Damme, right?
Yeah.
And he's not as and Van Damme's a better actor than Grenier, but like, but Tim Thomerson's also in Nemesis, so. If you guys ever get a hold of to watch either Hardware or Nemesis, I will show up. Awesome. Because those are great flicks.
Van Damme has my favorite Van Damme line is in Universal Soldier when he's just in the restaurant and everybody's trying to fight with him, and he's like, "I just want to eat, I just want to go home, and I just want to eat." And I feel like that all the time at work.
It's a very very relatable content.
Yeah, and he's just like, "Please leave me alone." Also, what's his name's awesome in that too, when he has the ears and he's like in a grocery store and he's having a non-flashback killing people in a grocery store. I love all the Universal Soldiers movies, but like you said, Day of Reckoning is
like a total. You don't have to watch any of the Universal Soldiers. You can just watch. You just go watch Day of Reckoning.
The first 10 minutes of it are like so harrowing, where he wakes up and like his kid's like, "There's a monster in the house," and he's like, "No, there isn't." Like, yeah, there are. There's a whole bunch of them.
Yeah, it's so good. Such a good flick. But I don't. Nemesis is on Tubi. I know. I know Nemesis is on Tubi. But.
All right, we'll mark that down.
Yeah.
Hardware might be on the Internet Archive. Did you check there?
I didn't check there.
That's our. We've been finding a lot of stuff on Internet Archive. Speaking of,
Yeah.
for next week, teaser for next week's movies.
Yes.
I thought about this, Bill, as a way to not give away because I usually get too close to giving them away. Okay.
Okay.
One of the movies next week is such a ripoff of another movie. It has one of the people killed in the movie it's ripping off in it. That's probably too close. That's probably too easy.
Mm-hmm.
In the second movie, I'm sure someone's going to chat will get it right away. The second movie is a movie that sounds like it's a hippie movie and it's alternate title, but it's not. Also, next week, Diane from Jalo of the Month Club is hosting, so maybe that might give it away too. They're not Jalos next week. They're tangentially close. But she said, I'd do something from USA Up All Night. And we're like, okay, that's awesome. We'll do something from there. So one of the movies is USA Up All Night and one is not. So there's all the teases for next week. You'll see them when you come back. Also, when you come back next segment, giving away 2 movies from Well Go USA, 2 Kung Fu movies from their Hiya channel. And those will be up for
Hiya.
That's their channel. It's called Hiya.
Hiya.
Which is pretty sweet. And I'll have those next time. It is not
All right.
the Love Butcher, Mike, though. That was a great guess.
No, it is not the Love Butcher, but I love the Love Butcher.
It is not your movie either. I want to show Mike's movie some week where he doesn't know and he's like stuck and we're going to watch it.
I swear I'm going to force Mike to come on the program and we're going to watch The Trouble with Barry.
We're going to watch the one that I have that's signed to you, and then the second half we'll watch the one that you have that's signed to me that we got the wrong ones.
Mike sent us signed copies of the movie he made on DVD, and he switched them, and we refuse to trade them now. Mine says
so I have a gold one in my house, which I love.
But in the meantime, I posted the link to tonight's second movie, Warriors of the Wasteland, on Groovy Doom. You should already have it ready. You know how we do this program now after all this time.
It's episode 143. Come on.
Yeah, 143 episodes we've done so far. It's crazy. I can't even imagine where all that time went. But tonight we've got Bryan Keithley and Peter Podgursky from NPR Armageddon. We hope you will come back on the third segment, guys, right?
Yeah, we'll be here.
Absolutely, yeah.
We'll be here with bells on
We'll be watching.
Yeah.
All right, and we hope you watching will come out too, because who knows what the hell we're going to do. Yeah, this will give us something to laugh about, right? Enjoy the film.